Okay, recording has started. Hello, and welcome to our November meetup. Topic today is PowerShell Pet Projects, and let me introduce myself. I'm Konstantin. My LinkedIn and my Twitter and the Twitter of the user group is here on the screen. If you want to connect, you can do this. Short housekeeping stuff. I will record the session. If you don't want to be in the recording, you can stop your camera. Mute your microphone so that we don't have any background noises or so to interrupt Jeff. And I will monitor the chat. And I think you, Jeff, I think it's no problem for you if they unmute themselves and ask questions if they have one.
Yes. If anyone puts something in the chat, you'll have to watch that because I can't talk and watch chat at the same time. So
I will monitor the chat, and I also will ask some questions along the way. And yeah, today's speaker, Jeff Hicks. Jeff Hicks. He is a PowerShell veteran. He is there since PowerShell 1. He wrote many books. I bought, I think, 3 days ago, one of his newest books online, and Manning, I think it was. He wrote what books? Month of Lunches, I think. Toolmaking. Some other stuff. You have your own blog. You have also the Practice Premier. I think it's a newsletter that you have that you can. You also have some. Is it a paid one, the Practice Premier, or is part of it paid? I don't know exactly. So you can have many sources from. You can have many sources from Jeff where you can have something. He also has a lot of Pluralsight courses on PowerShell and DSC and so on. Yeah, and also his blog. Yeah. Okay, so then Jeff, I will give the floor to you, and if you have anything to add to my introduction, you can do it. Thank you very much for speaking.
All right, thanks. I dropped a link in the chat that is kind of a one-stop shop for everything that I do, all my online links. So you should be able to get links to most anything that's important. Just follow that github.io link. All right, so let's see if this will work. Thank you for having me. I will talk and talk until you tell me to stop. So
let's see.
People get bored. So yeah, so I am an old person. I'm an old IT pro. I've been doing PowerShell since it was in beta. Co-wrote actually the first book that was on PowerShell, not counting the little monad preview from O'Reilly. So I've been writing and speaking and talking about PowerShell probably since some of the people who are watching this were probably in middle school, is going to be my guess. So I've been doing this for a very long time, and I have built up a huge library of tools that I've created, many that I create often for myself to meet my needs and get my work done, but also things I've contributed to the community. So when we chatted about this presentation, I thought, well, let's talk about, we'll kind of do this in 2 parts. First, I'm going to kind of walk you through my workflow, how I create projects and tools and things that I think about and the things that I use. And then we can look at some of my modules that are up in my GitHub repository. Almost everything is available to install from the PowerShell gallery. So I'm going to try to share, and I'm going to try just the application because I have a very widescreen monitor. And I think the last time I tried to share my screen, it got really wonky. So I'm going to try share. share window. Let's see. All right, so if I did this right,
I see your mouse. I see your mouse and a black screen. I don't know if anyone from the chat can verify this, but
yeah, no. Let me see. Let me try again here because it's stop sharing.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Oh well, let me go back and share it again.
Yeah.
Share. Window. I want this share. All right. So again, it says that I'm sharing. You what?
Again, the black screen with the white mouse.
A black screen with white mouse.
Yes.
Is that true for everyone?
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's
try the big screen and zoom VS Code or so in.
Let's see. You know what? Let's try this. Let me move this over.
Yeah. Now we see. Okay, now we see. Perfect.
I've got two monitors, and yeah, so Teams doesn't understand which is my primary monitor. So I'm going to turn off my camera because I will be looking away from the camera, and that might just be a little, and no one needs to see me. All right, so now I need to try to do this in two ways. All right, so now you should see my VS Code window.
Yes.
And I got the little GitHub link there. I will try, I'll get hold of you afterwards and figure out how to share this file and all the stuff I'm going to show with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can share it with the group. I'm assuming you have some mechanism for that.
Yeah, maybe we can come up with a GitHub repository or so. Yeah.
Well, or I can just share it. We'll talk. We'll figure out a way to share all of this. Okay, so
for sure.
The first thing I do is when I'm building a PowerShell tool, obviously I'm going to be building a PowerShell module. And over the years, I've experimented with different module layouts. You know, PowerShell doesn't really care how your module is laid out. You need a manifest and a root module, which is the PSM1 file. All of your functions, everything can actually go in that PSM1 file. Actually, technically, you don't even need a manifest or a folder structure. You just need a PSM1 file. That can be a module, or actually that is the module, PSM1 file. But I tend to break things up. If you have a small module with only a couple commands, then yeah, maybe putting the functions in the PSM1 file kind of works for you. But if you are working on a larger module, or if you're working on a module that maybe you're working on with other people, and so you've got some sort of shared repository, and you got source control, and to avoid collisions and save conflicts, I find it best for larger projects or shared projects to try to get a little more granular, meaning I put all of each of my functions is in a separate file. And then I can work on that file. If I make a git commit, changes are just on that one file. So that granular functionality that I have really makes things easier. It also makes it easier when it comes to pester testing if you have things broken down, but that's not a requirement. You can set things up however you want. You'll see a lot of people have modules where their functions are in one, like a public.ps1, and then their private helper functions and a private.ps1. I've kind of done that as well. So I have built kind of a process, and everyone should build their own process for spinning up or basically laying out a new folder structure for your module. Now, there are lots of other tools out there that you can use. A lot of people use Plaster or Stucco, so you may have seen other tools like this. I tended to go down the road of doing my own thing, just because I kind of like having the control and I like writing code. So I have put together, I have a script that I use that actually has a function called new PS project. And again, I'll share this with you. So this will go through, I basically can specify where I want to create the folder structure, the name of the module. I can specify command names if I know the commands I want to build, because the script will go ahead and scaffold out the stubs of the functions and speeds things up. I've got code that will go through and also create the GitHub repo if I want. I'm not going to go through everything here. In fact, I'll just show it to you. So I'm going to .source this. Nope, not debug it, but .source it. And just give you a look at the help here. So you can see it can specify the name, the path, the command names, license, description. This script actually will go through and copy some external files, like a license file that I have in my scripts folder, and it'll create the other things here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. Let me clear this here. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm just going to create it in my current location for this presentation. So that's the current path. And I'm going to call my modules called PS Demo. And I know I want to have commands get foo and set foo. I have a description. And for this demonstration, I don't want to create any of the GitHub stuff, because this is just kind of a throwaway demo. So I don't want to have to clean up after myself. So I can just run this command. And normally what I do is the PS1 file is .source in my profile script. So I can run new PS project at any time. I don't have to do anything. It's just they're waiting for me whenever I want to create a new module. So let's do F8, and there, done. And you can see, maybe you can't quite see, but it also changed the location to the new folder, and it created all of those directories, and actually created all those files. So you can see here, it created the get foo and set foo function files. So now I can open up VS Code, and I can go through and I can start creating and updating everything that I need.
So if I have the Git stuff, so if you say I want to have a Git repository, then I think you would do a git init, and
yeah, in the script file that generates this, there is code here that will go through, and this needs to be updated. I haven't done this in a while. Yeah, this will do a git init. Actually, it does a git init regardless. So I still have Git.
Ah, okay.
So I do have Git. What I don't have is the GitHub repo.
Okay.
So I do have code in here that will go through using the GitHub client and creates the repo and links everything together. But yes, Git does get initialized as a Git repository.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so the only thing I didn't do in this demo is create the GitHub repo, just so I don't have to clean up after myself.
Perfect.
So it creates, so here's the PSM1 file, which is really just, .sourcing all of the functions. And then it creates the manifest. So versions puts in, yeah, I got a bug here. I don't know where that came from. I'll have to fix that. It defaults to the current PowerShell version and the rest of it. And then you can see here it inserts my new functions. That also is a bug that I have to fix, because this should be actually an array. So it's not perfect. I got to fix this a bit. Often when I'm creating the module, I'm not bothering with the functions. I go in and add that later. But the script, as you can see, it gives me a big jump start on laying out everything that I need, and I know it's always going to be consistent. It also creates the .vs code folder and copies my default tasks.json file from my script folder. So I have a consistent set of tasks that I use in all my modules, and that gets copied over. the thing that I would encourage everyone is to come up with your own standard layout and build or use some sort of tooling to spin that up really quickly, because that took like a second to create all those folders and files, and everything's ready to go, and it's going to be the same regardless of everything I do. I love the fact that I can just have PowerShell do my work for me. So I might as well save that. Now, there are some other tools that I have that you can try to work with, or to not try to work, but to use to build your modules. I have a module called PS Function Tools, which is also up on GitHub. And this module, which requires PowerShell 7, by the way, although you could probably fork it and get it to work for Windows PowerShell, but I tend right now to write PowerShell 7 code. If it happens to work with Windows PowerShell, that's lucky, but I don't spend any more time trying to get something to work in both Windows PowerShell and PowerShell 7. I'm focusing just on PowerShell 7 because I think that's where everyone should be spending their time. So this module is built to make it easy to work with PowerShell functions, and I have some commands in here that will allow you to actually build out a module or to build out files that you might need in a module from particular functions or particular commands. For example, there is a command here called import module layout. There's also an export module layout. And what this does is this relies on a JSON file. Actually, I can show you. So I think I'm still in more. Try that. So there's a sample JSON file in the module directory that you can see up in GitHub. So this is just a list of basically of directories and files that I want to create. And I can use import module layout to import that JSON file, and it creates a whole directory structure and the file structure and everything as well. So that's kind of another approach. I have a command that if you have a set of files that, hey, I have all these PS1 files, I want to turn them all into a module, you can use new module from files. And you can see here in the example, you just specify the different files that you want, the layout file, some other parameters, and it will create, again, the whole module structure, separating out the files. And then there's also the new module from layout that I just showed you. I also have a command. So let's say in this module demo that I just created, I have another PS1 file that has a bunch of functions, and I want to include them in my module. So I have this export function from file command. You specify the path of your script file. So this is just a file in my scripts folder, has all my functions that I use in my profile. And I can specify an output path. So in this case, it's going to be the functions directory. And I'm just going to do this with -what if, but this will go through and it will create a PS1 file for every function that's in that source file. So within, less than a second, again, I can quickly grab files I've already created and pull them into my module. I then, of course, then need to update the manifests and whatnot, but again, it's pretty quick and easy. All right, so and again, Plaster and Stucco are other tools, and I'm sure there are other ones that are out there. Come up with something, and certainly if you are working in a team environment, I would strongly recommend that when you're building modules for your company or organization, that you settle on the directory structure that you want so that everything is consistent. Don't have one person decide, I want my module to look like this, and another person look like something else. If you make them all the same, obviously, then it becomes easier if someone's on vacation and someone else has to step in to try to maintain or update something, they're not struggling to say, well, where is everything? So be consistent. That will really help you out in the long run. All right, so the next thing that I do is I have another little function or command that I wrote, a module called PS Project Status. Again, you can see here the link for that. This project came about because I'm often writing or working on multiple modules or projects at the same time, and it was hard sometimes to remember, okay, where did I leave off? What do I have to work on next? What's the status of this project? Now, yeah, I usually leave notes and to-do comments and whatnot, but I wanted something that would help me keep better control of that. So what this module will do is it will create, let me do this here. This will create a JSON file. So you run new PS project status, and there's some other parameters that you can put in there. And this will create a JSON file that is stored in the root of your module. Now, typically, you probably don't need, this is not part of the module itself, so you'd want to include the PS project status JSON file in your .git exclude file. Although you don't have to, but I tend to have that as a universal exclusion. So here, let me just run this, and I'm going to specify, because I'm in, right, so I'm in my module directory. And I'm going to run new PS project status, and I'm just going to use the same version number that's in my module manifest for now, F8. All right, so that created a new file, and the command actually goes through to get the file. Yep. Come down here. So there is the file that it creates. If I happen to have a GitHub repository defined, it would have populated this, but right now it just defaults to no because I don't have that. So this does have a schema, so you could manually update this. So if you come here like the status, and let's delete that and see if this will work. Yeah, there. So I can see. Trying to look too many places here. Let's try this again. Control space. I'm hitting the wrong arrow key. One more time. And I'll just keep it in development because that's what I'm doing. Normally, the way that you would do this is every time you're updating this, you can do set PS project status. PS project status. You can do last update, get date. You can define a task. And you can see here, this age is a dynamic property or a script property. So if I come and look at this project later, it'll show me when this file was last updated, which is ideal when the module was last updated. Oh, it hasn't aged enough. There is also a PS project git status command that will show me what branch I'm on and when, basically comparing local commits to remote commits. Again, that doesn't really help me much because I don't have a GitHub repo here. But now here you can see that this has been updated. This comes in handy because I often will, when I'm traveling, have my laptop. And if I'm working on a project on my laptop, I can update it and it'll show the computer name for my laptop. When I'm on my desktop, it shows the computer name for my desktop so I can really kind of go back and forth and keep track of what I am working on. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's just say now that I've got that and I want to work on it. Like, for example, I know I need to do my help documentation, which is another process in my workflow. So I'm going to create a new Git branch. So now I'm on branch 020. Let's see, I modified that. I'm going to go ahead and do set PS project status. I'll update this, specify the new tasks that I want. There is an option to concatenate tasks, so you can keep adding things to it, but I'm just going to override the one that I set up there because that was kind of a dummy task. So now, if I need to, if I go away and come back later for this, I can look and see, oh, I'm supposed to be working on help documentation, or what major things I need to do. This is not designed to be a major, project management tool. It's just kind of more of a little reminder about what I'm working on, what is the state of this module, and what's the remote look like, and when was this last updated? Because I found when I started with this, I went through all my project folders. I found modules that I had completely forgotten about that I hadn't touched in like over 2 years. And I was, oh, I need to go back. I need to get that updated or deleted or something. And because I kind of hated having old work hanging out over me. So this has been really helpful in keeping track of what I am working on. All right, so let's talk about help. That's kind of the next thing that I want to do. And for that, I'm going to use the platypus module, which you can install from the PowerShell gallery. Everyone should be using this. This is what Microsoft uses, IDPS. I'm not going to go through every command here, but the platypus module will take your functions and create an interim markdown document. For those of you who have not seen this module, you then update the markdown document, and then you create the external help file. So let's do this here. Now, I happen to have a set of tasks built into VS Code that will build, add, and update markdown files. And the code is basically just running the appropriate platypus commands. So let's add help here. So I'm going to go terminal, run task. And where is, okay, why is that task not showing up?
Are you in the right directory in VS Code itself?
That's, yeah, no, usually it's, yeah, I want to be in the module root directory because the markdown documents are going in this folder called docs. And when I create the external help, it's localized to my culture, which is ENUS. But I.
Yeah, but it's your VS Code folder. So you open the file browser. Is this in the right directory? Because I think if your tasks get only show only in up in VS Code if you're in the right directory.
Yeah, and I can't recall how to. So I'll just do this manually.
Okay. Yeah. Problem.
All right, now build markdown file. So I'm going to import my module because when you're building your help files, you want to make sure you have the most current version of your module. Import module PS demo. So I should have. All right, so I got my two functions, which I don't think have any. So then I can run new markdown help. I'm in the middle of actually updating all of my tasks, so. In the module, yes. Come on.
I forgot an E.
Oh, yep, I see that there. I was trying to fix the casing. There we go. So you can see that created, markdown files for each command. And the document it creates is a very simple markdown document, and it actually tells you what you have to do. It's basically fill in the blank, get through things. If I had parameters, they would show up here. Typically, you want to go through and add a few things, put in the description, put in an example. If my function happened to have comment-based help, Platypus will consume that comment-based help and fill out the document, this markdown document. Once that's done, then you can go through and you can delete the comment-based help out of your function. If you work on your function and say, oh, I want to add a parameter or delete a parameter or something else, there are Platypus commands where you can update the markdown document. Then when you are ready, you can do new external help. You can see I do this a lot, so it came up as autocomplete. Specify the path where your markdown documents are, the output path, which is your localized directory. If the file has already been created earlier, you'll get an error unless you use -force. So that created this psdemo-help.xml file. The Platypus module has a command called get help preview, so you can actually see what this will look like. So you see, I didn't obviously fill in everything, but so there we go. So now if I were to re-import this module and do, assuming I can type and talk at the same time. Come on. So there's my help. So I don't have to do anything with the module to recognize the help. It just, as long as it is in the help file. I don't know what that was. The help file has to be in a culture folder, which if you don't know this. So you put in my case, it's ENUS. For Germans, I think it's DE-DE. Right. What's nice about the Platypus is if you need to localize the help, so say you need to have help that's in German, and you also need an English version of the help, because maybe you have a British or American users, you can create a docs folder for each language, translate as you need, and then generate the external help, putting in the appropriate culture. So when the person, So if I were, for example, to create a German version of the help documents and you import the module, as long as your culture is DE-DE, when you go to get help, you'll get the German help and not the English help. So that's a great thing about Platypus for if you, again, happen to have a need to localize help content. The other thing that I do with the docs folder is you can see that there's an online version that you can put in here. And I tend to grab the GitHub online link because this whole docs folder, pretty much everything you see here, other than the PS project.json, all goes up into GitHub. And so I have that docs folder up in GitHub. And so I can just do help online and it'll point them to the GitHub repo for the markdown document, which GitHub obviously will render quite nicely. So once I have, done that, obviously then of course I want to, just I'm not going to commit anything yet, but right, you still want to do your Git stuff. The last thing here, before I publish or anything, is change logs. And there is a module that I've started using called changelog management. And I've got the link there for this. So this will go through and allow me to create a change log that follows semantic versioning. So I'm going to go through and actually, even though my script to create the module created a very basic change log, I'm going to go ahead and run the new changelog command, which created this file. Now I probably want to change this changelog for, the name of my module. So all this is based upon this keep a changelog format. You can delete all that and save that. So now what I can do is let's go back to my demos. So when let's say I want to add an element to my changelog. So you do add changelog data type, and there are different settings. You can do added, changed, deprecated, fixed, removed, or security. I can do added data, added help documentation. And that goes through, and you can see it added the element there. So I can keep going through and adding stuff. And when I'm ready to release, which I don't have here, let's put this in here.
So it's not going after the Git commit messages. It's so you have to use these add changelog data commandlets to build a changelog. I think.
Right. Yeah. I'm not tying. I guess some people do that. I'm not tying my commit messages to the changelog.
Okay.
Although you certainly, could do that. Just you could build something that would maybe prompt for the take a parameter for your message and do the git commit and also update the changelog.
But the changelog management module is dependent on add changelog data to add some lines in the changelog.markdown file. It's not searching for the commit messages that you are having in your project.
Put it in here.
Okay, good.
I have here is. So here is a sample work log that's actually used for my PS work item project. So I was just getting ready to do a release. When you do a release, it will create the version, and then it takes all of the sections, and then there's an option when you do a new release, which I'll go through it here in a moment.
Mhm.
And you can specify the links that you want that puts down at the bottom.
Sure.
So if I remember right, this is, so update changelog. You can put in a release version. So I only do update changelog when I'm ready to publish. Say, I've got this all done. I'm ready to push a new version of my module. Otherwise, I'm just using the changelog to add changelog data to reflect new things that I have added to it. That's why I kind of separate the commits from the changelog, because for me they're separate things.
Yeah, perfect.
So let's say that this is 0.2.0, and you can read the help, and it gives you the links on how to do some. Do link mode manual.
Yeah, because sometimes the commit messages can get very messy, and if you don't have any, if you have problems, they can get very verbose or not very verbose, and that's nothing that you should have in your changelog. So
right,
that's a good thing. Yeah.
Once I updated the changelog, you can see it added the new link, and now if I go back and add another element to the changelog, it'll come up here under unreleased, and just that process repeats, and I'll get sections for added, changed, all of those different types. So when someone looks at your changelog, it becomes very clear for you or for anyone, this was added, this was deleted. It becomes a nice, easy way to manage everything. The only other thing to do, and I turned off my markdown linter because it complains too much. Technically, markdown likes spaces between stuff, but that's about the only other thing that I would manually do. So I've started now using, on all my new projects, this is the way that I do my changelog. On older projects, I just still manually do it. Although I won't put in the links, but I've manually started adding these sections to my changelog to make it clear as to what things are doing. So even though I'm not using this module, I'm still kind of following the concepts that they are using in their changelogs. All right, that. So the last thing after I have committed everything is publishing it. Now, actually there's publishing. And deploy to GitHub, I realize. So again, to publish to the PowerShell gallery, I have my own mechanism for that. And I have built a script that I use to do that. And what this script will do, actually it has a function. Again, this function is sourced in my profile script, so I always have it available to me. What the function will do, my deployment mechanism, is to basically copy the module contents to a temp location and then publish using the publish module with my PS Gallery API key, publish the files to the PowerShell gallery. I have some prompts here about, has external help been updated? I have some exclusions, so it will not include that PS project.json file. I have a default, any file that starts with dev, dev, or scratch also doesn't get copied over. That way I can just publish, is the main part here. Here is this publish module, because publish module wants a path. And I don't want to publish from my path to my script folder. I'm publishing basically from a clean environment, and the script will actually open up that folder in Explorer, so I can do one last sanity check to make sure I haven't missed anything. that I don't want published, so I can manually delete it. This is the kind of thing that I know some people will do up in GitHub as a GitHub workflow or action. I kind of am old school and I like running it locally and having more visual control over what is going to get published. I guess I don't trust my GitHub action skills in order to get that to work the right way. So I'm happy to do it all locally. I'm not going to demo that because the module, obviously, I don't want to publish. And then the last thing is to deploy it to GitHub. So when I publish the module and do my copying, all that, it tends to be done from whatever current Git branch I am in. All right, so in this case, if this was all finished, I would do my git commit, publish project. You know, the screen will prompt me for what's going on. It gets published to the PowerShell gallery. Now I want to push this version to the GitHub repo. And I have a task that actually calls a script. Let's see if I can remember what it's called. I'm so used to using the GitHub actions, I don't even pay attention anymore. All right, git release push. Let's put the note in here. Okay. So this script file is also using, if I remember right, so it does all the Git branch. I have some code here because I've got some modules still using master. Everything new now gets created with main. And it's just using the Git commands, and I've got some -what if to push and merge and push the tags and creates the release notes. This is using GH is the GitHub client. So there's a dependency on that. And it just assumes when I do my branching, my branching is always done with the version numbers. In this case, 020. I don't have any text or anything like that in here. The script file, when I push the new version to GitHub, it will tag it as V, as in version 020. That's kind of the only difference that it makes. If I try to push a version that does not follow the semantic versioning number, I get an error. But again, that's something that I manually go through because I'm not doing anything fast enough that I need to completely automate the process. So I'm not doing any CI/CD pipeline stuff. So I manually update the module, manually push the module to the PowerShell gallery, and then manually push a release to GitHub. And that, in essence, then, is how all my scripts work and how all of my modules work and the way that I basically go through and work on things. The only thing I haven't talked about is pester. That's a whole different topic. Any questions so far from anyone on my workflow? All right. One other thing that I do to help me keep on top of my tasks is I have another module that I built called PS Work Item. PS Work Item relies on another module of mine called MySQLite, and it will, if you install PS Work Item, you'll also get another module that will install the assembly so that you can work with SQLite databases. And the PS Work Item, let's do this here. So this is it defaults to a location in your home folder called psworkitem.db. So these are some of the things that I am working on. So this PS-Bitly is a module. So I've got different categories. You can keep track of when they're due. You can keep track of a percentage again. So if I wanted to, I could do get PS work item category. So these are all of the modules that I am in the process of working on. So it kind of helps me keep track. I've got a due date. I can see what kind of percentages. This is separate from the PS project JSON file. This is my overall work items. You can, let's see here. If I wanted to, I could create a new one. So let's say I want to update the PS demo module that I'm showing here, due in 3 days. And it would add then that element to this database. I also have, let's see if I can get this to work. Hold on here. I'm gonna have to see if I can switch. Stop sharing that. I'm gonna reshare a different window. All right, so now you should see a PowerShell window.
Yes.
That's a terminal interface. So my new version, latest version of the module has an option. There's a command called Open PS Work Item that creates a terminal user interface that you can use to manage. And I've opened up a separate database, my test database. So you can come in here and say, oh, I want to, that progress is, say, that's 10%, 10%. 10%, you can see it popped up that it's overdue. So let's say that this is going to be due now on, this is defaulting obviously to my date time, set PS work item, that updates that. I can clear this so I can enter in update, PS demo, project, add. Because I found, even though I can do a lot of stuff from the command line, I kind of liked having this terminal interface because everything is still in my PowerShell session. I don't have to go and find another window, and I can kind of see what I'm working on. Things will show up as overdue. So that's kind of a fun little project. I can manage categories. There's documentation. I'm trying to do more stuff with TUIs. I thought that was kind of fun. All right, so let's go back to.
So that's a project management solution for one person. I think it's not suitable for team stuff. Or what's your opinion on this?
You could. So here, let me share this back again.
Yeah, you could share the SQLite database, I think, then. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you could. Let me share this back again. So yeah, so you could share the SQLite database. This is designed for like personal use because it creates by default a database in your user folder. Yeah. But all the commands to open and work with databases, you can point to another location. So yes, you should be able to point this to a shared database. And so you could have multiple people updating. Yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't work.
Okay. But it's designed as a personal to-do list, I think.
I wrote it as a personal thing. So it's kind of structured by default to be a personal thing. But the default, you can set the default location is actually just a variable that you can set yourself. So if you have a team thing, you just set your default variable to point to the team database. And so all the commands in the module that work with the database will just use that database. It will use that default. Personally, yeah, the default is just set for my personal use, but there's no reason why you couldn't get that to work. I'd love some feedback on how that would work for people in the real world. That would be really cool to know about. I mean, I thought about this as, you know, if I'm working on other things, like maybe for a client or something, I could create a, you know, a work item database for that client and just point to that. But yeah, you should be able to. So what I don't know in SQLite is how it handles contention. If we're both in the file at the same time, that's what I don't know. I guess I could probably test that here, but I'll do that later. But so that's the last piece on kind of on how I manage my day and my workload. Let me go back here, share VS Code. All right, so you should be back in VS Code. How are you doing on? Wow, I spent an hour on that. That wasn't too bad.
Perfect. So it's always good to see that manual work is also there, not this all automation stuff and so on. So it's still so it has its advantages, the automation stuff, but sometimes doing things manually is not so. It's you don't have so much errors than doing it in an automatic way, because sometimes automations can screw things up, and that's not so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I use automation to streamline repetitive tasks.
Yes.
Like the VS Code, like to generate create the markdown help and all that. I just have to do run task and it's done. I don't have to type anything out. So I use, or it's a new project, I use automation to save myself having to type, because I'm probably going to make a mistake when I type and have to do it again. And that's just too frustrating. But yeah, when it comes to the deployment pieces, yes, I'm using automation, but I have some manual steps in there where it prompts me to say, hey, is this what you want? Are you sure you want to do this? So it's not completely hands-free. I mean, I probably could do that. I prefer like the last minute sanity check to make sure that this is exactly what I want to do. And the only way I can do that is to visually see what it is going to do. Pushing the file to GitHub, that I'm not worried about. It's publishing to the gallery, making sure that I'm publishing the files that I want to go to the gallery. GitHub and using Git is a little bit easier because I've got Git, you know, I have a Git exclude file that I can use, and I can always use Git commands to see what files are in the repo. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, the thing with the tags and the stuff, that it's cool to automate, because it can be a bit tedious to remember all the commands every time to do a new release. That can be daunting, I think.
Yeah, and I would encourage people, if they're not using it, to install the GitHub client and learn how to work with your GitHub repos from a PowerShell prompt. Because you can do things like look at issues and view repos. You can create repos. You can change a repo from private to public. I do that often because I'll create a repo for like a conference session. I want to keep it private. And then just when I need to turn it on, make it public, I can just do that right from PowerShell prompt. I don't have to navigate and go through the web browser to do that. I can do it all through GitHub, through the GitHub client. So that is pretty good. All right. So I guess the other thing that you seem to want to know is talk about some of my modules. Is that kind of what you wanted?
Yes. Yeah, that we go over some of the commands that you have, for example, the script tools and so on.
Yeah, okay.
Talk
So all of my
around this.
repos here on GitHub, JDHIT Solutions. If you just go to the JDHIT Solutions, that'll take you to a landing page. And then you can navigate to repositories like with the link here. All right, so as I was kind of putting some notes together, I decided let's start with the PS Script Tools module. So this is a module, and again, you can solve from the gallery. This works in PowerShell 7 and Windows PowerShell.
I think you're missing the module, I think.
Oh, you're right, I am.
A parameter, yeah.
Yep, thank you. That's why I wasn't changing colors. So as you can see, there are a lot of commands in here that I have written over the year, many times for my own use. But these are commands that I think can make your scripting work easier, or working with PowerShell interactively easier. I also put in a command called get PS script tools that kind of gives you a little summary so you can see. And open. I'm not going to run this because I'm not sharing my screen. If you run open PS script tools help, I have created a PDF file of all of the help documentation. So if you run the open command, it'll launch that PDF in your default PDF view, which is whatever you have set up, or Edge or whatever. So that's kind of a nice thing. It does make the module a little bit bigger, but it is quite helpful. So there are a couple of commands in here that I use pretty much all the time. One of them is new PS format XML. Now, hopefully many of you know that when you run a command like get process and you get that output, or get service and get that output, PowerShell has rules that say, if I run get process or get service, this is the default view. And those views are stored in these special XML files, which can be really tedious to create. So new PS format XML allows you to create an object or run a command. So say you run your function writes and emits a custom object. As long as your object has a type name, it can't just be PS custom object. It has to be a specific type name. So here is a common way that you could do that with a hash table and put in this PS type name. New PS format XML will allow you to create a XML file that is then imported into your module. Oh, here, let's do this. Let me. All right, so I created a custom formatting file with that new PS format XML, and this is actually part of the PS script tools that creates a view called options for aliases. And when I ran new PS format XML, it goes through and it creates basically everything for you. And I've got comments that show you how to put in a script block. So because I imported that, so if I do get alias, so that's the default view, but I built a custom view. Like that. And that was really easy to create. Well, the hard part is creating all of this is very tedious because obviously it's XML. But once that is created, then you can come in and you can fine tune it, which is really all that I did. So I use this new PS format XML all the time. And you'll look at a lot of my modules. In fact, you know, when I run like git PS project status, yeah, even that. So you can see that there is a type name there. Format. So when I created that function originally, it wrote a custom object of the pipeline, which wasn't formatted the way that I wanted it to be. So I created, there's PS project. There should be another view that you can append. Oh, that's for the list. And oh, I grabbed the wrong file. So this was created for the output to run that command. And I created a list view. Those views are defined in here. In the module manifest, there's a section called formats to export, and you just specify the path to that file. I put so all of my formats go in that formats directory. And then formats to process, you just specify the path to the file. So when you import the module, you get the custom formatting. So that's probably one file. The other command that I use almost on an hourly basis. In fact, I don't remember what the full, oh yeah, copy history commands. I'm always using the alias ch. You may have seen me use it earlier. So what copy history command will do is formats. If I do ch, by default, that will copy the history from the last command to the clipboard so that I can then paste it in something else that I'm doing. Because often I may have multiple PowerShell windows open. Now, even though I've got, you know, history and whatnot, I can, if I have a session that's on a remote computer, it's like Windows terminal open, I can run the command locally, ch, switch over to the remote terminal and paste it, and I can run that command again without me having to type it. And you can specify the ID that you want. So if I wanted to recopy like 92, then there's ch 92. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. So that's ch, copy the item number 2 in my history. So that's also in the PS script tools. That is invaluable to me. It saves an enormous amount of time because it's just, you know, because almost always it's the last command that I ran. I want to copy and put that in because if I do a lot of writing, obviously, and so, you know, I want to run the command, and then I want to basically take that command and paste it into the document that I'm writing, or the markdown document, or whatever. And so CH, tab over, Control V, done. Anything that I can do to speed up my work is something that I am happy to spend a lot of time figuring out how to do, because in the long run, I will be much happier. And that little copy history command, it seems like a silly thing, but at least for me, it just makes my life so much easier. I don't even have to think about it anymore. So yeah, the PS Script Tools module is pretty big. I've used it for quite a while. There are, a number of other commands. Let's see, get PS. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Lots of formatting, selecting, some testing.
Just look at the commands. You also have something that resolves DNS name to DNS names to the owner. If I just look up that correctly, it's where get who is, I think it is. Yes. It's command to retrieve who is information from the ARIN database for a given IP address.
Yeah, for a given IP address.
Yeah, that can also be sometimes very helpful.
Yeah, here. Yeah, I've got stuff in here that I have no idea. I keep forgetting that it's in there. Get no. Yeah, so let's see if this will still work. No. Yeah, there we go. Maybe that's of help, but yeah. And again, that is a type name, and there is probably a default view in the PS Script Tools folder. Yes.
That's, I think, very valuable, because I think most people, I'm not talking the people from the chat, but most people, I think, don't know about the view stuff that's in PowerShell, I think. View stuff, I think, you can correct me, Jeff, I think it's a 1.0 thing, I think, the view. The views, those, so that the PS type name system and so on. Yeah, that's a really cool concept that they came up with, because you can define with this format files, you can define your own views. That's really cool stuff.
Yeah, and my PS Script Tools folder has lots of examples. You can see what that looks like. But yeah, what he's talking about with the custom format views. So you can run get process. You can run get process format list.
Yeah.
Now, but you get actually, it's not the same output. It's a different output. I can do get process format table dash view priority. And it's a totally different view. Now, how did I know that there was a view called priority? Well, two things. One, you can just put in garbage and you'll get an error message that shows you what the proper views are. Or in my PS Script Tools module, if you happen to, you need the product, the object name, the type name. So this is service process. No.
What is?
It's a system.diagnostica process.
Yeah, this is.
So I wrote get format view to help me see, without having to muck around with errors and whatnot, what are the different views that are available to me. Oh, yeah, I'll show you something else in PS Script Tools that you might find very helpful. Get type. There's a command I wrote called get type member that is kind of like get member, except this will go through and show you, given a type name, basically a .NET view of all the events, all the methods. If it happens to be a static method, it highlights it in green. And then also all of the processes or properties. Because sometimes it's easier to, I want to know, for example, you know, let's do date. You know, what are the static methods that I can use with the date time object? And that's a really quick and easy way to do that. I can do trying to remember if I have. Oh yeah, I have a view called syntax. So if I come back here to method, format table dash view syntax, come on. Kind of looks like get member, but this shows me then I kind of generate some code. So you could say, oh yeah, I want that like that parse or to file time. I can just copy and paste that code right into my script.
That's cool stuff. And this is all done with the XML file stuff that Jeff also had.
If you look at the code for get type member, it's doing some stuff with oh well, the output, yes, the output is done custom formatting, yes.
Yeah.
With the XML file.
Yeah. That Jeff also got a commandlet too, and that's I think is the most helpful stuff to have the boilerplate, so the XML stuff written with this command. And if you then try to to produce the output that you want, then you don't have to write the XML for yourself. You only have to write the logic to show that on the screen. That's
right. Now
the cool stuff.
Another module that is kind of related to the script tools, not like the formatting, is this PS type extension tools module. So let's see. So with this, you can create type extensions, like adding a member, like adding a script property. You can, I wrote this so that I could add things to existing file types. I believe if I do, let's see if I can remember this correctly. No, let's do get PS type. Now it's possible I didn't import them here. Oh, I did. Okay. So in my profile, I have used this module and I've created basically a JSON file that has all my type extensions for file objects. And in my profile, I use this import PS type extension So now all of my file objects also have these properties like size KB, size MB, modified age. So I could do dir text file, select name, size KB, modified age, or even I've created an alias size. So I have created these type extensions, and I can easily re-import them or reuse them constantly to make my interactive work with PowerShell a whole lot easier. Because you don't need anything fancy. There is a XML format for type data as well. And if you want to create a property set, another thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to, if I look at get process, you can see that there's property sets here. So a property set, PS select PS resources. Instead of me having to type get process select name, ID, handle account, working, all of that stuff, I can just group those all together as a single and reference it as a single property name. Now this gets defined in an XML file, but my code, there's a command here to create a new PS property set, and this will then create the XML file, which again you can then export in your types to process in your module manifest. You could even create the XML file and add all your other type extensions. So if you want to add a script property to a custom object that you are writing in your function, you could use these commands to at least create the XML file. For the most part, I use these commands to extend PowerShell so that it saves me typing and makes my life a whole lot easier and sometimes even a little fun.
Yeah, but you have to be careful if you hand your script to someone else that doesn't have the PS type name extensions, that it can cause errors or cause unexpected behavior. Then.
Yeah, so you would not include or rely on the PS type extension tools module for your module.
Yes.
You would use this module if you wanted to create, for example, the XML file to define a property set.
Yes.
So the person using your module, they don't need PS type extension tools. That's just for you to create the XML file. Yeah, and that's the way that I would do that. Because the other way that you create type members is just use update type data. Just use that command. So you could, often my modules will have commands in them that are running update type data and just defining a script property one. I usually put that in the PSM1 file.
Yeah, that is what I think that it was what I meant. If you handle the script over without the type data extension stuff, then it can cause problems because then the script properties or the code properties are not defined on the person's machine.
Yeah, you definitely need to put that in your manifest. The only time you need the XML is if you're doing a property set.
Yeah, nice.
Kind of the last module that I had in mind to talk about briefly is the PS release tools. So there are lots of ways that you can update PowerShell 7. So I wrote this when PowerShell 7 first came out, and it wasn't in the store. We didn't really have Winget or anything.
I was using this myself in the beginning of things. Yeah, how can we keep that current? Yeah, just use this, and yeah, we have to download everything from GitHub and so on. Not gonna work in a real environment.
Well, yeah. So this does a couple things. One, I can get PS release current just to see. So the current version is 7.3.9, which is what I'm running locally. So I'm good in that regard. If I decided that I wanted to install the latest version, so install PowerShell will install the latest shipping stable version of the 64-bit version for Windows. There is a command, there are some other commands though, where I am scraping the assets from GitHub. And you can kind of fine tune this. So let's say, oh, I guess sorry. I've never tried this. Yeah, that x64 is only. So let's say that I wanted to download these files. So I want to deploy them on my own. I can then do get, save. Yes. I'm not going to do it, but I could hit enter, and then those files would download. So you could do the same thing. Is I could do family, Windows, so if I just want the MSI package, I can easily download it and then deploy this however you deploy MSI packages in your environment. All the install PowerShell is doing is basically invoking the MSI installer with whatever switches in order to get it in the right way. There is also
the preview stuff. Yes.
a preview version that will install the latest stable preview build on your system.
Also release candidate and something if it comes out, or just the preview stuff?
Yeah, I have not looked at this. I think I have a couple issues or PRs to take a look at.
Okay.
I can look here. Nope, I have no issues. That's good. Oh, I'm in the, no, I need to go to scripts.
Okay.
I need to go to the GitHub repo. And I've not used this with PRs. Issue. Oh, PR. Yeah. Yes, I have some PRs I have to take a look at, but. So I still rely on PS release tools. All the time, even though I've got winget installed, I can update it that way as well. Command dash module.
Oh, command.
Get command. There we go.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and I've been alias for install PS Core. So all these are up on GitHub, and I certainly encourage people to look through the modules or look through the repositories to see how things are laid out and see how I'm doing things. In some ways, I feel like my GitHub repos are like an archaeological dig, where if you go back further in time, look at the older projects, you'll see really crappy stuff and go, why was he doing it this way? And so don't dig too deeply. All right,
everyone has this learning curve where he or she just look back months ago or years and say, what did I do there?
Yeah. Well, and I tell people that all the time when I'm teaching or presenting is don't rely on Google search to find the answer. You may find something that I wrote, 5 years ago, which is completely obsolete now. What I wrote 5 years ago worked then, but now there's a better way to do it. So don't assume that stuff you find, your best bet is to figure it out yourself. If you need help saying, hey, I don't understand, I'm trying to use invoke command and I'm getting hung up and so I'm getting this error, go to the PowerShell Discord or Slack channel, or use the forums of PowerShell.org and ask a question there, because you'll get an answer from someone who is in the community who knows what they are talking about, and you'll get something that is going to work for you and they'll be able to help you out. I've never had much luck with stuff I found in Reddit, or I just really don't trust that community when it comes to compared to the PowerShell community. So if I'm going to ask a PowerShell problem, I'm going to stick to the PowerShell community, which is going to be, the Slack Discord channel or the forums at PowerShell.org.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, so people have to have questions, unless they've totally fallen asleep, which is also possible.
I have not seen anything in the chat, so now, guys and girls, there's the unmute button if you want to say something or ask something.
Was any of this helpful to anyone? There's still people
Silence.
watching, so hopefully, I'm assuming.
I'll wait until the film is in the chat and we can watch it again, because it was very quick for me, but it was very interesting for managing all the tools where you work with.
Yes, and I will figure out a way to share stuff I showed you, and then you can look at my demo, little script file I went through, and the other tools that I'm using. So I'll get that shared.
Yeah, let's talk tomorrow how we share this then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will Twitter the link then out to the webs then. Let's see.
Yep.
Cool. Greg says yes always. So thank you for this. And I think it was also helpful to see what other people do, because we had many people on here, Fred and Gail and so on, to talk about their tools like the PS module development and the sampler stuff. And these tools can get very complicated. So you don't have so you have to have the module, the logic first in control before you write any code to know what you're doing. So if you release something, what processes do I have to do before I release stuff? And to see your workflow, it seems a lot easier to me than this whole stuff. Or if you talk about Stucco or so, I don't know Stucco a lot, but I think it also has some automatisms around or inside of it. And to see your processes, that they're easy, they're a lot of streamlined. I think it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the approach is because I don't have a developer background.
Yeah.
So I'm not writing my tools thinking like a developer. I'm thinking more like a scripter, like an IT pro who just wants to, automate with basic PowerShell commands.
Yeah, so it's much easier. Yeah, it's also much easier for beginners to get up to speed. If they look at a more advanced solution, it's, I think, very overwhelming for them to start working. So that's also the cool stuff to hand over to my colleagues or to hand over to the community and say, okay, use this. That's a good starting point. And if you evolve from this, then you can build your own stuff on top of this to extend the solution and so on. It's also, or I also built something for my internal colleagues that they can use because they are all IT pros also. If I say, okay, use this and use this, yeah, it's too complicated and we don't want to have CI/CD and it's too complicated and so on. Yeah, then I built something for this, something for them, and it works pretty good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing you said in the beginning. Build something that's helpful for you or for your team, and PowerShell, I think, is a good language for this to do this.
Yeah, because it's very easy to understand, and you don't have to. It's just basically the commands that all I did in my scripts really are just the same commands I initially just typed interactively. So this works, and now I'll just put it in the script file. And so I didn't like write the script to publish my project. I kind of knew what steps I was already running manually, and just instead of me having to type that all the time, put it in the script file. And then you can add a little more error handling and a little decorate it up, make it fancy, and
help,
a little more
parameters, stuff,
Yeah.
and so on. Yeah. I think also this is good stuff. I have also a bigger project, which is dependent on many modules, and like you did, I created a pipeline because I don't want to. I just commit something to a repository, and then this runs and creates the whole platypus stuff and push it to another GitHub repo, and then I have a Wiki.js who is consuming this GitHub repo and creates pages based on based on the markdown that Platypus creates. So that's also a cool solution. But you have to come up with something in your head to start building, and that's Platypus was a real good help for this. The only problem was if you code, you normally don't write the help when you code. You quit coding and then, I have to write the help, and then you see, okay, I have to write help for 80 commandlets, and yeah, it took me some weeks to get up to speed with the help stuff, but really works cool.
Yeah, I guess the thing to do is when you're building your functions, at least put in the synopsis and a brief description.
Yeah.
So then when you go to generate the help, that'll get consumed. And it shouldn't take you that long to put in a comment block at the beginning of each function as you're developing and just synopsis, and even just a one-line description. For sometimes that may be all you really need.
Yeah, and also VS Code helps you with this because I think it was but in the early stages you just write inside a function or outside a function two hashtags, and then the comment-based help will be created automatically for you, especially with the parameters that you define in this stage. That's
I kind of put the comment help inside the function declaration.
Yes, definitely.
That way, if you copy and paste the function, you're taking everything with you.
Yeah, I made that mistake once to put it outside.
And the documentation also serves for the person who might have to maintain that. So when they go to look at the code, they see the function name, and then they can read the help documentation, and then they get to the code with whatever additional comments you have. So that's why I like having it inside the function.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions? Any other comments for Jeff or for the stuff we talked about tonight?
Hopefully I'll be in Antwerp next year.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I will try for the first time to submit something to the speaker stuff so that I can maybe be a first time speaker. Let's see. But I will definitely be in Antwerp next year. So if I'm a speaker or an attendee, that's no question. You were not in Prague, I think you were in Prague. Yeah, Prague. Yeah. Great stuff, Jeff. Ah, nice. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, you talked about TUIs, I think, was one of your talks. And another.
I kind of got even better with it, and so I created that work item TUI.
Ah, okay, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, it seems like the if when I showed that to my colleague that there is something new, say, oh, it looks like DOS. Said, yeah, it's definitely DOS. Yeah,
yeah.
That's the first GUI what I did. Edit, and you have this blue screen, and then you can type stuff.
Yes. Yeah, or NetWare, if anyone is watching is old enough remembers NetWare.
NetWare, yes. Yeah, that the TUI stuff, especially if you Adam Driscoll did a really nice designer for TUIs. Also, I think it's free now. Yeah, it's really cool stuff to have a drag and drop stuff to design your own stuff, and then only write the event handlers for this. It's also it's always cool because I think I saw your talk and the whole stuff to align everything and position it can be very tedious work. It's like building an HTML page and the stuff. Yeah. And the code that this will produce is immense. Normally, yeah, that's always cool to have a GUI stuff or a GUI tool to make that a bit easier. Yeah.
Well, that's what the TUI stuff is. It works cross-platform.
Yeah.
WPF does not work cross-platform.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like my PS work item would work on a Linux box.
Yeah.
And so you could be working on Linux, and if you want a little graphical type interface, you can do that.
Yeah.
With the same thing. So that's you can't use PS work item because I don't have a SQLite assembly that runs on Linux yet.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought about also building TUIs with GUI-CS or with the help stuff, but when I give that to the end user, the click stuff, I think it won't work so good in a TUI in a TUI window than if you have a typical WPF or WinForms window. My solutions, if I need a GUI, is still WPF. Yeah, but if I have sorry, go ahead.
No, I like having the TUI because then I don't have to take my hands off the keyboard and reach for my mouse and start navigating.
Yeah.
The GUI. If I design my TUI right and get my tab order right, I can just bring it up, tab over, and it will also work with the mouse. But
yes, yeah. If I would write a tool for an IT pro, I think he or she can operate this good, but the end user can get. I don't think that is a much good idea.
No,
this year.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems very interesting, and I have to have a use case for this to get more into.
Yeah, I'm working on a module that is a set of TUI-based tools that is, if nothing else, is just designed to as a showcase for what you can do with it and serve as models. But I think that is still a private. I don't think I've made it public yet. Should we check?
Yeah, because what I get out of your talk was also if you are not familiar with because it's the C# stuff, if you're not familiar with .NET and how to use PowerShell with .NET and are not familiar with the data types and the properties and the classes, that's normally also not a typical home for an IT pro. So you have to be a bit advanced, and building commandlets for something like this is, I think, very useful for a for a guy or a girl to build that very quickly.
Yeah, this project I'm working on is still private and being developed. So
okay.
yeah,
Don't want to show previous stuff.
I'll put that on my to-do list to try to get that out here soon. So
nice. Okay,
right, so
is there anything else for Jeff? Because then I think we can quit this session because my time it's 10 before 9 p.m. So we have 10 minutes to go, but yeah. Also, I think Jeff has some work to do also. Okay, if there is nothing else, then I think can say bye. See you next month. And Jeff, yeah, let's see if we see us next year.
Yep, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Bye bye. See you all next month. Bye bye.